Alright guys, so in today's video we are going to be sharing some travel tips for Hong Kong and also letting you know how expensive is Hong Kong.
Yeah, how expensive is Hong Kong?
I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, it is quite expensive, but there's also some really cool aspects about Hong Kong. Almost unlike any other city we visited, there's like a plethora of free things to do. And there's
budget eats?
Yes, budget eats, and also transportation is really cheap. But we're gonna break everything down and let you know the costs for Hong Kong.
Okay, so first up, let's get started with transportation from the airport into Kowloon or Hong Kong Island.
Right, and like our last travel tips video, we've got our notes on our computer, so you'll see us looking down from time to time, so we just don't want to miss anything. Alright, so the first point we have is arriving by Airport Express. And that's what we did getting into Hong Kong. It's like this really fast train that takes you right into the city. You can get off at Kowloon, or you can go all the way to Hong Kong Island at Central Station. And it's super efficient, really fast, very comfortable. So in terms of the price, so you're looking at 100 Hong Kong dollars all the way to Central and Kowloon, or you're looking at 90 Hong Kong dollars to Kowloon Station. So that's about 11 to 12 US dollars. Something else important to know is that they have free porters to help you bring on your luggage. we didn't take advantage of that service.
No one helped us with our bags.
No, but if you do have trouble getting your bags onto the train, there's someone that's apparently available to help you do that.
Good to know.
That's really good to know. An even cheaper option is buses. And there's a bus system called the Cityflyer, and this is how we got back to the airport.
Yeah, from the city to the airport when we were leaving.
Yeah, and prices can range anywhere from 10 Hong Kong dollars to 48. It's going to be closer to the 48 range if you're leaving anywhere from the center of Hong Kong, which is what we did. And that you're looking at like 5 to 6 US bucks for that. This is also quite a comfortable way to get to the airport. I think it was air conditioned inside.
I fell asleep, so I don't remember much.
Yeah, I mean, they have a little section for you to put your luggage, and as long as there's not a lot of traffic, then it's a fairly efficient way to get from the airport to the city, or vice versa, from the city back to the airport. So we can also recommend doing that, especially if you want to save a little bit of money. And the last option that we have here is taking a taxi.
Oh man.
And that's going to cost you a lot. That's anywhere from 250 to 350 Hong Kong dollars. So you're looking at around 40, maybe to 50 US bucks to get you into the city. And I guess the only time we'd recommend taking that is if you were in maybe like a super rush, something like that. But otherwise, why wouldn't you take the first two options? Save some money, guys.
So for accommodations, you have a few different options, but we're going to tell you right now, it is going to be pricey. This is probably the most expensive city in all of Asia for accommodation.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get a whole lot of space. If you watched our Hong Kong hotel room tour, there's a shot where Sam is like touching the two walls. It was tiny, and like the beds were tiny as well.
You kind of feel like a giant when you're in a typical Hong Kong hotel room.
But anyways, your best bet if you're traveling on a budget would be a hostel. So how much would you say that is?
So dorm rooms can be anywhere from about 17 to 30 US dollars, and the price, like that price range, reflects on where you're staying and also the quality of the hostel.
Yeah.
So that's about as cheap as it gets. Also, you can sometimes get like a really cheap flop, what we call a flop house, at that price, which technically it's your own room, but it's almost like, it's so small it's almost like a closet.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a ton of value at that price range. That's just like the rock bottom price for accommodations in Hong Kong.
So the next step up would be kind of like a budget or mid-range hotel, and that's what we did for our visit to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And well, you paid. You tell us the price.
Yeah, I think we were paying around 60 or 70 US dollars, and it was the nicest place we've ever stayed in Hong Kong. Yes. But it was super tiny.
Nice.
What was really cool about our particular room is it had a really good shower. Yeah. But everything else was really small. Our bed was super tiny. Our desk was like it was almost a bit of a joke. Like I could barely sit down on the stool. But yeah, this is what you're gonna pay, and it's usually about 40 US dollars all the way up to 200. So we were still on the lower range of that scale.
I think our room was typically around $80, but we found it on a special, so it had a bit of a discount. but still, you don't get a lot of space for that amount of money.
Yeah, I don't think you really start getting like typical small hotel space until you're spending at least probably over $100 US. So yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So the next option would be to do
a luxury hotel.
Yeah.
How much would that be?
You're talking
hundreds of dollars,
yeah, well,
thousands of dollars.
Well, over 200, probably like anywhere from 200 to 500, 600 US dollars.
Yeah, depending on location.
Yeah, if you want to live it up, you definitely can in Hong Kong. And then the other option would be to do an Airbnb or an apartment rental. And between the $35 and $80 range, you can usually get a room in someone's house. Closer to the $80 range, sometimes you can get a really small room, but it's almost more like a hotel size, like a tiny hotel. But then if you bump it up to the $80 to $200 range, sometimes you could get a whole apartment or a studio, something like that. So that's something to consider. We didn't do that on our trip, but maybe in hindsight, that might have been a good idea.
So another place that you could consider staying in if you're traveling on a budget is the infamous Chungking Mansion. Ooh.
Yeah.
That place is scary.
That place is it's kind of this sort of rundown building. It's near the Simsachui area of Kowloon, and yeah, it's also a good place to get a curry. You can get a cheap curry.
You can get some really good Indian food, but I remember a few years back we were looking at rooms in there, and it's like dark and damp and run down and super sketchy characters outside.
Yeah, but that's about as cheap as you're gonna get, though.
Yes.
If you're looking for, if you're like an ultra hardcore backpacker, beeline it to there.
Yeah.
But some other cool areas also on Kowloon to consider is Mongkok. It's a really cool, busy area. You're nearby a lot of really good night markets, lots of good restaurants.
The ladies market?
Yeah, and also the Temple Street Market is nearby too. And then if you want to go to Hong Kong Island, there was one time, this is before I met you, where I stayed at a hostel at Causeway.
Causeway Bay.
Not Causeway Bay. Causeway Bay.
So next up, let's talk about transportation around the city. And Hong Kong is a place where you have like so many different types of transportation. You've got the ferry, you've got the subway, you have double-decker buses.
Yeah.
So plenty of options, that's for sure.
Trams, yeah, you've got it all. You've got it all. And the card that you're going to want to pick up to travel on all of those options is the Octopus card. You can pick it up right from the airport. And I think it's called the Octopus card because of what the eight
arms.
8 arms.
Are there 8 modes of transportation in Hong Kong?
I think so. I think that's what it is. I don't think I could list all 8 of them, but anyways, yeah, you can pick it up right at the airport, and then it's one of those reloadable cards that you can just deposit some money on. It makes transportation so much more efficient because there are certain modes of transportation in Hong Kong where if you're paying by cash or coins, you need the exact fare.
Oh, you won't get anything back. They won't give you change.
Right. So if you have the Octopus card, you avoid that. And it's also a really versatile card in the sense that you can use it for some museums, you can use it in certain convenience stores. Apparently, you can use it in McDonald's. We didn't try that there. But yeah, it's one of those really highly versatile transportation and travel cards, well worth getting. So the transportation we actually ended up using the most, especially when we were pressed for time, was the MTR, which is Hong Kong's metro subway system. And it's an awesome way to get around. It's cheap, it's efficient, it's clean. It can be extremely crowded during peak times.
Oh yes.
So try to avoid rush hour. Otherwise, you are like a sardine squeezed into a can, literally. And there's times where it was just so full.
We couldn't get on.
We couldn't get on.
The train just left, and we were waiting for the next.
We gotta try the next one.
Yeah.
So that's what the experience is there. And moving on from there, so we talked a bit about the trams. Now this is probably, in terms of ground transportation, this is my favorite way to see Hong Kong.
Double-decker trams?
The double-decker trams. And this is on Hong Kong Island, and they're just, it's so cool. They're just such an iconic and old-fashioned way of getting around the city, especially if you can go up to the second level. And so the thing to note here is that you enter through the rear, and your fare is paid, you pay your fare when you're actually exiting the train, so after your ride. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, definitely try to go up to the second level. Sometimes it can be a bit crowded on here as well. So if you see one that's really packed, maybe let that one go by and hop on the next one. And in terms of the price, there's a flat rate of, it's Hong Kong $2.30, which in US dollars is about 30 cents. So it's ridiculously cheap to go on here. This is somewhere where you want to pay with your Octopus card or have exact change because they don't give change back on here.
So another form of transportation you can consider in Hong Kong is the Peak Tram that takes you up to Victoria Peak where you get some amazing views over the city. But that's actually a sightseeing attraction, so we're going to mention that later.
Yeah.
And let's move on to Sam's favorite, one of his favorite modes of transportation.
Absolute favorite.
The ferry.
Yes, the Star Ferry going from Hong Kong Island to Kowloon is crossing Victoria Harbour. It's just so cool. Yeah, apparently this has been in operation. Let me see here. I had it written down. So it's been going for over 120 years. So it is. I've mentioned this in our city guide, like our things to do guide. I think it's the most iconic way of seeing Hong Kong. I believe it's an 11-minute ride, and if I look at my notes here, it's only like between 250 and 340 Hong Kong dollars. So you're talking like between 30 and 50 US cents to get on a ride. So it's so cheap. It's such a fun way to experience the harbor and also the skyline in Hong Kong. It's especially cool if you get on the Star Ferry during a Symphony of Lights laser show.
Or at sunset. It's really pretty at sunset.
Or at sunset. And you know what? It can be crowded during the rush hour, but I find like during the middle of the day, it's usually not very crowded at all. But even if it is crowded, it's still something we recommend taking for sure.
So now let's talk about free attractions in the city, and there's quite a bit that you can do for free around Hong Kong. So first up, we would recommend checking out the Symphony of Lights. And this is like a music and laser light show on the harbor, and it takes place both on Hong Kong Island and Kowloon.
Yeah.
But I would recommend being on Kowloon, looking out to Hong Kong Island, because they have a really cool skyline, and it just looks amazing once the lights come on and like it all starts flickering and flashing. It's really cool.
So some other really cool free things to do in Hong Kong, and this is really awesome because museums, at least 3 museums are free on Wednesday. So the ones that you can go in for free on Wednesday are the Hong Kong Heritage Museum, the Hong Kong Science Museum, and the Hong Kong Museum of Art. So keep that in mind if you're going to be there. If you're going to be in Hong Kong for a whole week, maybe plan your museum day on Wednesday. So for some great free views of Hong Kong, we recommend going to Central Plaza. You can go up to the 46th floor, which is called the Sky Lobby. And there was hardly anyone there when we went. Like we were what? Maybe there's one other person.
Yeah, seriously.
And you get incredible views looking out over the harbor, and you can see like the other really tall buildings. You get a great view of the skyline. It's awesome. Like
yeah, you can actually get 360-degree views. Like you can walk around in a circle, and it's all like glass windows, floor to ceiling. And you don't have to pay. I can't believe it's not more popular. It's really worth visiting.
Yeah, it's really underrated. I would say it's the most underrated thing we did in Hong Kong. There's hardly anyone there when we visited in the morning. Alright, so moving on to something else that's free. There's a lot of really cool parks you can visit in Hong Kong for free. 2 of our favorites were Hong Kong Park, which is a really nice park on Hong Kong Island. There's an aviary. There's just a lot of really nice places to walk around. It's really lush, really green. It's kind of like this tiny little oasis escape in the middle of the city, and it's kind of in the heart of the city. And then the next one we really liked was Kowloon Park, which was on the side, which was in Kowloon, which is where we were staying basically. That's another really nice park. It's very big, very spread out. Highly recommend going for a walk there. So something else you can consider doing in Hong Kong is hiking. There are a lot of different hiking trails, one of the most famous being the Dragon's Back.
Another place we really enjoyed visiting that was absolutely free except for getting there was the Tian Tan Buddha and the Poland Monastery. Admission to those 2 places is completely free to visitors. You just have to pay to take the cable car out there.
Right, or if you want to go an even cheaper route, and I did this several years ago, you can take the bus up there. And you don't have to wait in line for that, unlike the cable car. Okay, next one that we have here is the Temple Street Night Market. So obviously if you want to eat or shop, you're going to pay some money, but if you just want to take it in, you can walk through the market for free. The Noonday Gun. And this was the one attraction I really wanted to do in Hong Kong. I don't know why I like it so much. It's a little bit quirky. just every day at noon they fire this off. It's basically near Causeway Bay, and you have to go underground to get to there. You have to go through like an underground parking place.
So 2 other places that we really enjoyed visiting were the Chilin Nunnery and the Nan Lian Gardens, and the 2 are located right next to each other. They have beautiful gardens with like bonsai and waterfalls and lakes, and it's just really quiet, really pleasant. They play soft music while you're walking through the gardens. It's very tranquil.
It's a lovely place to go for a stroll.
Yeah.
And finally, so we've done 10 things here.
10 free things.
It's the Avenue of Stars, and unfortunately this is under construction at the moment. Hopefully by the time you visit it will be open again, and this is where you can see like the iconic Bruce Lee statue.
Yeah, and it's basically an area along the waterfront, so you also get great views of the city from there. So we've talked about free attractions. Now we're going to tell you about some attractions that you're going to have to pay for, but these are iconic experiences in Hong Kong, so you'll most likely want to, you know, dish out those bills.
Yeah, most definitely. And so the thing we recommend doing the most, obviously, is taking the Peak tram up to Victoria Peak. And that is like such a steep tram, right? It's like, oh my gosh.
It's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the price, I have it written down here. So if you just do the Peak tram only and not the observation deck, which is what we did, you can get some really good free views when you go up top. It is going to cost you for a return ticket 45 Hong Kong dollars, so that's just under $6 US. So it's actually not that expensive, and something that we highly recommend. Although it can be quite crowded lining up to get on it.
Yes.
So yeah, be prepared to wait a bit. And if you kind of want to beat the crowds, then don't go right at night, because that's probably the most popular time. Also, it's also really popular on the weekend. So consider going on a weekday, maybe mid-afternoon, before sunset. That would be a really good time to go.
So now we're going to move on to our favorite part, the food and the eating, and what should you eat? So first up, we're going to recommend a really well-known restaurant, Tim Ho Wan. They specialize in dim sum, and they're a Michelin-starred restaurant that is surprisingly affordable, and the food is amazing.
Yeah, and I just have to mention, sorry for the construction noises.
They're building.
There's some building going on, but yeah, we'll just roll with it. We're gonna roll with it. But yeah, Tim Ho Wan is really cool because it's affordable dim sum, Michelin star quality, and there's several locations, so definitely check it out. But also don't be afraid to check out your local neighborhood dim sum place, because dim sum is just awesome in Hong Kong. And we ate at several different restaurants while we were there.
Yeah, we found a little local spot that actually had discounts if you ate mid-morning and mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
So we were just eating off peak hours.
Yeah, we got like 15% off. Sometimes our bill would be like just over $10 for the 2 of us.
Yeah, for a lot of dim sum.
Yeah, so it's cheap, it's affordable, it's delicious. Oh man, is it ever good.
But aside from dim sum, there are other cool foods that you can try. So what else?
Yeah, so in terms of other things, you can have congee, which is juke. It's kind of like a juke for breakfast, but you can also get it any time of day.
So juke is a porridge.
Yeah,
juke is the Korean word. Why is he speaking Korean?
Yeah, I don't know why. But then you can also get the roasted pork over rice, which is also really delicious. And there's also really nice baked goods. Like there's something called wife cake, and then of course the iconic Hong Kong egg tarts. So yeah, there's a lot of really good foods to try in Hong Kong. That's just a few of them.
So now let's talk about a fancy meal.
Yeah.
Not on this last visit, but a few years ago, we went out for afternoon tea at the Peninsula Hotel. Oh my, that was not a good day for Sam, because they do not allow you to make reservations.
Yeah.
So we probably stood in line for 2.5 hours, and Sam was sulking, and then he refused to come on camera and make a video about it.
Yeah, I lost my cool that day. I mean, it is a really, really awesome thing to do, but you really need to be prepared to wait for a while.
Yeah.
It is the most famous place to have tea in Hong Kong, and it's cool, and it's popular for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful setting.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful hotel, and they have classical music, like there's people playing the harp and the violins. So it's fancy, but long wait times, and it's expensive.
Right.
You mentioned the price.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the price right now. So for 2 people, currently it's 658 Hong Kong dollars, which is roughly about $85 US. So you're looking at
tea.
Yeah, you're looking at over $40 per person. It does come with a generous amount of finger sandwiches and yummy snacks, but yeah, it is not cheap. There is an alternative, there's a lot of alternative places to have tea in Hong Kong. And the place that we ended up going to recently was a place called the Lion Rock. So what we did is we called them up for a reservation that the same day that we went, which is incredible. And we arrived on time. We were able to sit down right away, and within minutes we were served our tea, and we had an amazing set of sweets and savory foods as well. And that one was quite a bit cheaper. I have the price here, 428 Hong Kong dollars for 2 people.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
And we are back.
Yeah.
They came knocking to clean our room, so we've actually been gone a few hours. We had lunch, we met up with friends.
We had a little siesta, we met up with friends, and now we're finally back.
The lighting has changed.
Yeah. So we're not going to pretend we're just rolling seamlessly.
Anyways, we were talking about tea. The price.
The price.
Afternoon tea.
Right. So the price of afternoon tea we were talking about at the Lion Rock, and and that is 428 Hong Kong dollars for 2 people. And that's basically 54 US dollars. So about $27, $28 per person. Yeah, it's cheaper.
A lot more affordable than the Peninsula, we can tell you that.
Yeah, the advantages are it's cheaper, it's more affordable, and you can make a reservation, arrive, and have it exactly at the time you booked. So that's really nice.
So next up, we're going to talk about things we loved about Hong Kong.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit that we loved about Hong Kong. So the first being all of the free attractions. And we've already listed 10 of those, so we won't ramble on about that. But Hong Kong is just a city where most of the things that we ended up doing ended up being free.
Yeah, and it kind of balances out nicely because accommodation is going to eat up a big chunk of your budget, but then you can go sightseeing and not necessarily have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, you can literally plan the whole day just around free activities.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Okay,
next up.
Second, dim sum. And I wrote in my notes, dim sum is amazing. And it is.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say beyond that. It's just such tasty food. It's cheap, and it's all over Hong Kong.
And you know what? With dim sum, you can eat it any time of day.
Right.
We were having this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes like a mid-afternoon snack. Let's get dim sum.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a versatile meal. You can have it for lunch. You can have it as a snack. Exactly. And we ate it a lot. Okay, number 3. Most diverse and interesting options of transportation in any city we've visited. Like, I can't think of any other city where you can take a ferry, where you can take a tram, where you can take the metro, where you can be in a cable car, where you can take a steep peak tram going up. It's just like options galore. Everything is really efficient, everything is cheap and affordable. And that's what's awesome about Hong Kong is it's so easy to get around, and there's so many different options you can choose from. My suggestion would be to try them all, especially the tram and the Star Ferry.
Another thing we loved about Hong Kong is the views. Like, I think this is a city that has such an iconic skyline, especially at night when the lights come on. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. And if you keep revisiting the city, it's always changing. There's always a new big building.
New skyscrapers. Yep.
Yeah, and it's amazing by day and also by night. So, and from different vantage points, it's really cool. From Victoria Peak, it's great on Kowloon, where you can see like the Symphony of Light show. Like, there's just so many different cool vantage points where you can see the skyline, and like we mentioned, it's totally iconic. So number 5, Hong Kong is a dynamic city, and there are not too many comparisons. Like, it is just an assault on the senses.
Exactly.
And there's just so many people. There's so much going on in terms of transportation. It's just a very exciting city. You can feel the pulse of the city almost anywhere, all the time, any time of day.
But you know what? That can be a good and a bad thing. So now this is going to be our transition into things we didn't necessarily love about Hong Kong. And there were a few.
There were a few.
So I would say number 1 for me is the crowds. There are certain areas in the city or certain times of day where it can feel quite claustrophobic. And we've also been in Hong Kong before during holidays and festivals or like celebrations.
But yeah, we were in Mong Kok, and like there were times where we would look out our apartment window and be like, we're not going to even bother going out. It just looked like ants scurrying across the streets at night. And
as an example, I remember a few years ago we decided we wanted to go to the movies on a Friday or a Saturday night. It was probably like 6 or 7 p.m. So we thought, oh, we'll just walk over to the movie theater and buy a ticket. And we got there and everything was sold out for the day.
For the whole day, for the whole night.
So it's a place where there are so many people that sometimes you need to actually like make reservations and bookings in advance if there's something that you really want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You can get swept up by the excitement of the city, but it also can be overwhelming, especially when you're feeling a little run down, you're a little tired, maybe a little sick. All the crowds can be really overwhelming. Okay, so the next thing is, I'll just be perfectly blunt, is some of the worst value accommodation you'll find in Asia. For what you spend, like you're just getting very like cramped, tight quarters, and unless you're willing to splurge, and Hong Kong might be the city that if you have the resources to splurge, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
Because you really pay for what you get. And at our price range that we paid, and it's quite a bit higher than what we pay in a lot of other cities in Asia. We had paper thin walls. We could literally touch our walls.
Babies crying at night.
We didn't have
couples fighting.
We didn't have one good sleep, to be honest, because there's babies crying at night, and then there's construction during the day.
Yeah.
So that was it weared on us over time. The accommodations. And the last thing is that nightlife and fine dining can get a little bit pricey. And it's just, you would expect that in a big developed city like Hong Kong. So, but I just found like if you're going out for drinks, it is going to be pricey. It's a lot cheaper to get your drinks from a convenience store and have them at home. But yeah, I would still experience the nightlife though, at least once. But
I think it's a city that you have to experience at least once in your lifetime. Like it's truly impressive, it's amazing, and it's just so iconic. So I would say go to Hong Kong, but maybe save up your cash so you can actually, have fun, stay in the types of hotels you want to, maybe splurge on a few experiences and really enjoy it. And
if you're someone that doesn't have enough money for like a more expensive accommodations, then just plan to be out most of the day. You don't want to spend a lot of time in your room if it's that small. Anyways, we recommend going to Hong Kong. We loved it. We've been there many times, and we will probably be back in the future.
So those are our tips for Hong Kong. We hope you found some of this information helpful. If there's anything else you'd want to know about the city, maybe leave us a question in the comments below and we'll try to answer that. If not, if you're a local, feel free to answer people's queries in the comments.
Because we are just visitors, and the local perspective is always better. So signing off, and do visit Hong Kong if you get the chance.
See you later.
Ciao.